before the sun comes up, before the coffee, before anything else. A 74-year-old woman in a small village in South Korea walks to her kitchen, boils a cup of something dark and strange smelling, and drinks it in silence. She has done this every single morning for 40 years. Her daughter does it. Her mother did it before her. And in that village, and dozens like it across rural South Korea, almost nobody talks about constipation. Nobody complains about bloating that won't go away. Nobody reaches for a laxative. Now, if you're over 50 and your gut just doesn't work the way it used to, if you've tried fiber, tried probiotics, tried every laxative on the shelf and nothing actually fixes it, just masks it for a day before everything goes back to exactly how it was. I want you to stay with me for the next 10 minutes. Because what this woman drinks every morning is something most people in the Western world have never heard of. And the science behind what it does to your colon is unlike anything I've seen. I'm going to tell you exactly what it is, what it does, and how to make it at home, probably with something you can buy tonight. But first, I need to tell you something that your doctor almost certainly has never explained. Something about what is actually happening inside your colon after the age of 55. Because once you understand this, once you really see it, you will immediately understand why laxatives don't work, why fiber supplements don't work, why nothing you've tried has worked long-term, and you'll understand why what this woman drinks every morning does. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had a plumber come out for a clogged pipe, and they use a snake or a pressure flush to clear it, and for a week everything runs fine, and then it clogs again, and you call them back and they clear it again, and it keeps coming back? That's because clearing a pipe and repairing a pipe are two completely different things. That is exactly what laxatives do to your colon. They clear it, they force movement, they push things through, and for a day or two, sometimes 3, you feel relief. But they do nothing to repair the wall. Here is what I mean by that. Your colon is not just a tube. It is a living organ lined with a layer of cells so thin you could fit 1,000 of them on the tip of a needle. Those cells are held together by tiny protein structures called tight junction proteins. Think of them as the grout between tiles. When they are intact, your colon wall is a sealed barrier, keeping bacteria, toxins, and inflammatory particles locked inside where they belong. But starting around age 55, those junctions begin to weaken. The proteins thin out, gaps open between the cells. And when that happens, things that are supposed to stay inside your colon begin leaking through the wall, directly into your bloodstream. Scientists call this intestinal permeability. You've probably heard it called leaky gut. And here is what those leaking particles do once they're in your blood. They trigger your immune system. Your body reads them as an invasion. It fires up inflammation, not the sharp healing kind you get from a cut on your finger, but a slow, low-grade, system-wide burn that never fully turns off. A 2024 review published in the journal Human Nutrition and Metabolism confirmed what researchers have been building toward for years, that this gut barrier breakdown is one of the primary engines of the chronic inflammation that accelerates aging. Not just digestive aging, all of it. Joint pain, brain fog, fatigue, mood, memory, the energy that disappears by noon and never fully comes back. All of it tied to what's happening in the wall of your colon. So when you take a laxative, you are forcing water through a cracked pipe. The water moves, the crack stays. Now here's where Korean researchers found something that changed everything. South Korea has one of the lowest rates of colorectal cancer in the developed world. That fact alone is remarkable. But what makes it extraordinary is this. South Korea has a rapidly aging population, more people over 65 per capita than almost anywhere in Asia. And yet, colon disease is dramatically lower than in countries with younger populations and more modern diets. Researchers spent years trying to understand why. They went into rural villages. They studied centenarians, people who had lived past 100. They looked at everything: genetics, activity levels, caloric intake, and what they kept finding in study after study, in village after village, was the same thing. Fermented foods, every morning, before anything else. The most common? A drink made from something called Doenjang. Doenjang is a traditional Korean fermented soybean paste. It has been made in Korea for over 2,000 years. You might think it sounds like miso, and they are cousins. But Doenjang is fermented longer, with a completely different microbial profile, deeper, more complex. And what it does to the aging gut is something miso simply cannot replicate. When you dissolve 1 teaspoon of doenjang into a cup of warm water and drink it on an empty stomach, before breakfast, before coffee, before anything, 3 things happen inside your colon that no laxative can do. First, it begins shifting your gut bacteria ratio. Specifically, it decreases a bacterial family called firmicutes and increases bacteroidetes. Now, you don't need to remember those names. What you need to know is this. The firmicutes to bacteroidetes ratio is one of the most studied markers of gut age. The older and more inflamed a gut is, the more firmicutes dominate. Younger, healthier guts have more bacteroidetes. Doenjang flips that ratio back toward youth. Second, and this is the part that stopped me when I first read the research, Doenjang directly increases the levels of occludin, that tight junction protein I mentioned, the grout between the tiles. Published research from the National Institutes of Health showed that Doenjang treatment significantly increased occludin levels in the colon wall. The gaps begin to close. The wall begins to repair itself. Third, Doenjang suppresses something called NF-kappa B. That is the master inflammatory switch in your body, the signal that keeps that low-grade systemic fire burning. Doenjang turns the volume down on it. This isn't folklore. A study published in the journal Foods in October 2025, less than a year ago, confirmed that Doenjang attenuates colitis-associated colorectal cancer progression by modulating inflammatory pathways and gut microbiota. Another clinical trial registered at Chonbuk National University Hospital specifically studied fermented Doenjang powder on intestinal microflora in human subjects. The science is real. The mechanism is understood, and it has been practiced in Korean kitchens for 2,000 years, long before researchers had words for it. But here's where this video goes somewhere you didn't expect. Stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you is the part most people watching this will never connect. And it is the reason that on day 3 of drinking this, people report something they weren't expecting. Not just in their gut, in their brain. Your gut and your brain are not separate systems communicating occasionally. They are in constant, real-time conversation, connected by the longest nerve in your body, the vagus nerve, which runs from your brainstem all the way down through your chest and into your abdomen. Here is the part that most people don't know. 90% of the signals on that nerve travel upward, from the gut to the brain, not the other way around, which means your gut is sending your brain a report, a chemical status update, every few minutes. All day, every day. When your gut wall is intact and your bacteria are balanced, that report is calm, anti-inflammatory. Your brain reads it as safety, and it responds with clear thinking, stable mood, and steady energy. But when your gut wall is leaking, when those inflammatory particles are slipping through into your bloodstream, the report your gut sends up the vagus nerve is a fire alarm, and your brain responds to a fire alarm the way it always has throughout human evolution. It floods your system with cortisol. It pulls blood flow away from your prefrontal cortex, and it downregulates energy production. Brain fog after 60. That heaviness you feel. The mood that sits a little lower than it should. The exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. In many cases, not all but many, those are not brain problems. They are a gut wall sending a bad report upward for years. And here is the link that closes the loop. When the gut wall heals, when tight junctions close, when inflammation drops, when that fire alarm quiets, the report changes. The brain gets different information, and your mitochondria, the tiny energy factories inside every cell of your body, which are exquisitely sensitive to inflammatory signals, begin producing ATP normally again. That is why people feel a shift in energy by day 3. Not because of a stimulant, not because of caffeine or a supplement that forces your body to feel something, but because the alarm turned off. And everything downstream of that alarm, your brain, your mood, your energy, responds. This is one connected system. And Doenjang, taken correctly, at the right temperature, at the right time, addresses multiple links in that chain at once. Now, here is exactly how to do this. And I want you to pay close attention, because there is one mistake that most people make the first time they try this, and it completely cancels out everything I just told you. What you need is traditional Korean Doenjang paste. Not white miso, not yellow miso, Doenjang. The label will say Doenjang, or you may see the Korean characters Doenjang. You can find it at most Asian grocery stores for under $5. One jar will last you over a month. Take 1 level teaspoon, not a tablespoon, 1 teaspoon, and dissolve it in 180 to 200 milliliters of warm water. Warm, not boiling. This is the mistake. Most people use near boiling water. When you do that, you destroy the live bacterial cultures, the very microorganisms that do the work. The water should feel like a comfortable bath, around 60 to 65 degrees Celsius. If you don't have a thermometer, boil your water and let it sit for 3 to 4 minutes before adding the doenjang. Stir until dissolved. Drink it slowly, on an empty stomach, at least 20 minutes before you eat or drink anything else. Then, and this is the second part that the Korean woman does every morning, the part that seems completely unrelated to digestion, she goes outside, not for a walk, not for exercise. She stands in the morning light for 10 minutes. Here is why that matters. Your gut has its own internal clock. Researchers call it the peripheral circadian clock, and it runs on light. When natural light hits your eyes within the first 30 minutes of waking, it sends a signal through your retina to a region of your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, your master body clock, and that signal cascades down to every organ in your body, including your gut. It tells your digestive enzymes when to activate. It tells your colon wall when to contract, when to absorb, when to rest. The doenjang broth resets the bacteria and begins repairing the wall. The morning light resets the timing of the entire system. Together, they work as one protocol. Now, the 3-day timeline, so you know what to expect. Day 1. You may feel some mild bloating or a slight change in bowel timing. This is normal. Your gut microbiome is being disrupted and rebalanced. Existing bacteria are losing dominance and new ones are establishing. Drink plenty of water throughout the day. Day 2. Most people notice softer, easier bowel movements. The peristaltic rhythm, those wave-like contractions that move waste through your colon, begins to normalize. Bloating after meals often decreases. Day 3. This is where something unexpected tends to happen. Not just in the gut. A clarity that wasn't there before. A steadiness and energy that doesn't crash by mid-morning. You now know why that happens. Let me bring this together. 1 teaspoon of traditional Korean doenjang paste in warm, not boiling, water on an empty stomach every morning. 10 minutes of natural morning light immediately after. 20 minutes before you eat anything. That is the entire protocol. Do it for 3 days. Pay attention, not just to your gut, but to your clarity, your energy, and how you feel in your body by mid-morning. That woman in South Korea did not learn this from a study. She learned it from her mother, who learned it from hers. And what peer-reviewed science published in 2025 is only now beginning to confirm is something 2,000 years of Korean morning ritual already understood. Your colon is not a waste system. It is the foundation of your immune system, your mood, your energy, and your brain. And for most people over 60, it has been quietly struggling, not because of age, but because nobody told them what it actually needs. You know now. This video is for educational purposes only and is not medical advice. Always speak with your doctor before making any changes to your routine, especially if you have a digestive condition, a soy allergy, or are taking medication. If this video helped you see something differently, subscribe. We go deeper every week into the science of aging well. And if someone you love has been struggling with their gut, share this with them. It costs nothing, and it might change everything. Now, before you go, there is something I didn't tell you about that Korean woman. What she does in the morning has given her a functioning, healthy gut. But what she does at night, a 2-minute ritual before sleep, is something that researchers at Washington University School of Medicine identified just 2 years ago as one of the most critical factors in preventing Alzheimer's disease. They call it the glymphatic reset. It is the process by which your brain physically washes itself clean of toxic waste while you sleep. Amyloid plaques, tau proteins, the very compounds that accumulate into Alzheimer's disease. And it turns out, most adults over 60 have almost completely lost the ability to do it. Not because of their age, because of one specific thing they're doing every single night without realizing it. Something most people think is completely harmless. Next week, I'm going to show you exactly what that is and the 2-minute habit that restores your brain's cleaning system overnight. If you're not subscribed, you will miss it.